Good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Black Spaces. I want to talk today about frugality. Frugality and hard work. So, one of my favorite quotes from one of our founders, I guess Benjamin Franklin. But if you haven't read a biography on Benjamin Franklin, you can learn a lot from him. He was what they call a Renaissance person. He was not only into politics, he was into engineering. I think he's credited with, if I'm not mistaken, he's credited with starting the fire department in, I think, Boston. That as we know it today as a fire department. But Ben Franklin said, and I love this quote, frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. That's frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. And he's credited with many other things, and one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. But I love this quote because it really encompasses my mindset about saving and using money for what is you for freedom. Frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. In 1997, I bought a Honda Accord. Just got married. Me and my wife went out to California from Phoenix City. I was on leave. We drove it across to Vandenberg Air Force Base. And we kept this car. By the way, this same car, this Honda Accord, took both of my kids from the hospital. So kind of wish I'd have kept it now, but we sold it. We sold it in 1990, and we bought it in 1997. We sold it in 2018. I think it was 2018. So we kept that car. We drove it all over Europe when we were stationed in Germany. Drove it across country twice because we had to drive it from Auburn all the way up to Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. Drove it back, and I think we did a couple of trips back and forth. But anyway, we got our use out of that Honda Accord. That Honda Accord, we kept serviced, and it did its thing because I like cars, but at the same time, I understand a car is there to take you from A to B. It's not an asset. Now, let me rephrase that because this is a conversation. A car can be an asset if you put it on Turo, and that's a whole nother thing. But if it's specific, you buy it, put it on Turo, and that's what it did. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, or that generates income. A liability is what takes money out of your pocket. So, going back to frugality, that car, like right now, I have a truck, 2009 F-150. I'm going to drive it till the wheels fall off. So back to the Honda Accord, we bought it, we used it up, and then I sold it to a college student for like $1,500. So, did I, in those 20 years that we had it, buying a car every 5 years, I probably could. Got good credit, not bragging, but why? That money, those payments, those car payments can be used for something else, buying stocks, assets. And I'll do another podcast on what, well, let's talk about it now. What are assets? Cash is an asset. Cash in your pocket is an asset. When people say, well, cash in the bank don't do you no good, you got you using it is not beating inflation. Well, that's neither here or there. You need to understand, like this Apple Watch right here, this company, Apple, they have, and you can Google this, they have 150 billion in cash reserves. 150 billion in cash reserves. Why? Because they understand when an opportunity presents itself, they're able to get a good deal because they have the cash on hand to scoop up something that's undervalued. They have a lot of smart people at Apple. They got an ecosystem. And if it's good enough for Apple, which is a $1 trillion company, but they still keep 150 on hand, cash, liquid. So just let that settle in. So you, as me and you, blue collar, need to have some cash. Because Murphy is going to show up. Murphy is, if it can happen, it probably will happen. That car, your car going to break down. Your tire is going to need being replacing. You need to have emergency cash in the bank so you can take care of that. And that's where frugality comes in. Frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. Once you have that, your whole situation changes when you have money that you don't touch in the bank, just sitting there for emergencies, because they will come up. So let's talk more about assets. Assets, like I say, with cash is an asset. Real estate is an asset. There's people out there with this false teaching out there talking about, well, your house is not an asset because you're living in it and it's taking money out of your pocket. That's not true. Because yes, it is true that you're taking money out there. If it's not being rented, it's what's going. But your house more than likely is appreciating. You're locked into a rate that's not going up. Now, if you get into an ARM, adjustable rate mortgage, that's a whole nother problem, which I would tell anybody don't do that. My example, we're stationed in Texas, San Antonio. We bought a house there. And when I left and got orders to another base, we just rented out, and we still rent that house out today. And we locked into a very low interest rate. I think it's like 3 point something. Had I been thinking, well, I'll just rent, I wouldn't be sitting on all this equity now. But no bragging, but to God be the glory. But had I been thinking that false thinking of, well, that house is not what. Right now I'm sitting on a whole bunch of equity, and the house is basically paying for itself because I have a renter in there. Had a renter as soon as we left, within a month. So real estate, no matter how you cut it, is an asset, in my opinion. I could be like, that's my opinion, and everybody has an opinion. But do your own due diligence. Get with a qualified advisor, and just understand. And going back to reading and understanding, rather than sitting there looking at soap operas or whatever, entertainment. You're either going to be entertained or you're going to be educated. Educate yourself about this stuff, about what an asset is. Bonds are assets. Stocks, needless to say, a stock. Once you own a stock, you own a piece of that company. Mutual funds, indexes, which is the same as a stock, but they just put them in a bundle. But like I say, a really good book, anything about Peter Lynch. We always talk about Warren Buffett, but you need to Google Peter Lynch. One of his great books is One Up on Wall Street, classic. Read it many years ago. Yeah, read that book, understand it, get a study group, together, and y'all read the same book and then talk about it, take notes. Because we, as black people, we have to be collectively trying to learn this stuff. Patents is an asset. Trademarks, people are asset. Getting around people, observing, understanding what a person's saying. You have a accountant in your family. Do a 10-minute Zoom call with them and just go over the basics. So people are an asset. Raw materials, of course. Equipment. If you have a lawnmower, that's an asset because you can go out and cut somebody's grass and make some money. Unique rights. Might have some oil rights, or somebody want to put a sign on your land. People are Airbnb now, taking a tool shed and making an Airbnb and generating money. First mover. You recognize something that's not in the economy. You are a first mover. That's an asset. You put it out there. You're always going to be no matter who comes after you. You got that first mover asset because you were the first one to recognize that need wasn't being fulfilled. So you have first mover asset. So those are assets. What are liabilities? Something that's taking stuff out of your pocket. You go out and buy a Corvette. You don't put it on Turo or whatever car. It don't have to be a Corvette, sports car. You spend sometime now $1,200 a month on these things. If you're not putting it on Turo, that's taking money out of you, and it's a depreciation asset. Unless you have a classic car that's going up in value, something like a, 1970 Chevelle, that's probably worth six figures now in mint condition. That's an asset. But just going out and buying a BMW and Mercedes, as soon as you get off that lot, as soon as I got off the lot with that Honda Accord was worse than what I paid that month, was what I was paying on it, because it's going to lose value automatically as soon as you ride it off the lot, because it's not new anymore. You done lost like 10% right off the bat. So you got to understand these things. And that's why I created this channel, so we can understand assets versus liabilities, and frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. Don't just have money to spend it. Have money. Money should be seen as soldiers. Though when you get those soldiers in your bank account, okay, how can I deploy those soldiers, just like in the military, or those airmen? How can I deploy them to go and bring home more soldiers? Because when you going out and buying, selling, spending frivolously, you're sending your soldiers out to die. You want to send your soldiers out to get more soldiers and bring them in. So those soldiers can bring more soldiers in, and more so, and pretty soon you don't have to work as hard because your soldiers are working hard, meaning, i.e., your money, your assets are making money. Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you haven't read that, you need to read that. He talks about, and I'll talk about that more than another, but he talks about if you draw something and you put E on one side, B on one side, S, and I. E stands for employment. A W-2 job. S, it stands for self-employed. If you're a one-person shop, you're self-employed. When you start working, the money stops working. Business. It's a business owner. Now you have a systems in place. You can leave if you set it up right. You can leave for a week and it still runs. It's still making you money. That's a business. And I is investor. No matter where you're at, you more than likely coming out of high school, you're going to start at E, but you want to be funneling money to I, and you can funnel money to I and B by buying stocks, because our stock is a business. So you're an investor and you're a business owner at the same time by funneling money into stocks. Start your own business by being self-employed. Then once you're self-employed, now you get systems in place. Now you can go ahead and systematize what you're doing, work on your business, not in your business. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. And now you have a system in place. Now you're a business owner. If you're just a one-man shop, you're self-employed. Well, kind of, sort of. If you build a one-man shop, if you're in the software, there's so many ways to skin a cat. If you build if you write a book and you start selling, that's an asset. Going back to assets, that's books, digital currency, or digital course. You know how to do something real well. You put it in digital form. You build it out. You take a lot of time to build it, but once you build it, you can sell it over and over and over and over. That's an asset. So yeah, we talk, and so this is what I want to talk about today. June 6th is frugality and hard work are ways to wealth, and understanding assets versus liabilities. And we got to get this stuff. We got to learn this stuff because once you learn this stuff, you can teach this stuff, and then you can go from there and learn it and teach it, learn it and teach it, and then we'll grow. So that's all I want to talk to y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and frugality and hard work are the ways to wealth. Remember that.